Welcome to Design Downtime, the podcast where we celebrate the joys of living a balanced creative life. I'm your host, Guy Siegel, a design director in Toronto, Canada, and I invite you to join me on this journey as we redefine what it means to be a successful design professional. Let's break free from the shackles of hustle culture and embrace the full spectrum of human experience, because life is too precious to be spent only in pursuit of productivity. Today, I'm delighted to be talking with Donnie D'Amato. Donnie is the founder and chief architect of Design Systems House, a consultancy dedicated to the future of design systems. He is also the moderator of the Slack, Twitter, and Mastodon design system communities, author of Gridless Design, a thesis on mismatching the design grid to the web medium, and instructor for user research and interaction design at Parsons School of Design. Previously, Donnie was the first UX engineer at Compass, and currently, he is the engineering lead for the UX Score library at GoDaddy. Welcome to the show, Donnie.
Thanks for having me, Guy. That was a wonderful intro you gave me there. I mean, I know it's the GitHub one, but it works. It works.
You have only yourself to thank for it.
That's right, sure. Well, you read it eloquently, I'll say. How about that?
I'll take that. Thank you very much. And today you're joining us to talk about dancing.
Yes, I am going to be talking about dancing. So, well, where do you want to start?
Let's start. I like to start with the origin stories of people. Where does dancing come into the picture for you?
Okay, the origin story is very interesting. All right, so I guess the if you really want to talk origin story, let's talk about my parents. Okay, so my parents, both of them are very good dancers, and we'll say like discotheque nightclub dancers. And when I say that as well, that's like they are able to do the hustle together without any kind of choreograph routine or anything like that. When they dance together, it is like they've been dancing forever. It actually is very produces a lot of feelings for me. So both of them being dancers, having very good rhythm, and my father was a drummer as well. So like clearly the rhythm is in there. It was in me as well. And in fact, when I was very young, my mother, when my mother would say, "Hey, you have to go to bed," the way that we would be able to stay up, that she told us, was like, if you dance with me to the radio, you can stay up. And obviously, that's a way of draining all of our energy so that we do go to sleep. So that's what we did. We used to turn the radio in the kitchen, and we'd be dancing in the kitchen. And me and my brother would do that for, all the time. That's a start of it, but I didn't really consider dancing as a thing to do like publicly myself until much later. So in junior high school, I went to every single, school dance that there was. But I didn't actually dance at them up until about 8th grade. So our middle school was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So in 8th grade, I say I wasn't really dancing, but it looked like I was dancing. And the reason for that goes back to a video game. So I was really into video games at the time, especially like fighting games. And at this moment in time, there's a video game that came out called Virtua Fighter 2. And there was a character in that game that was called Shun-Di. It's like this drunken boxing character. And there was a cute little sweep move that he did where he would like kick his leg to the outside, and it would like make this big circle, and you jump over that leg as you turn around, and like you could do that multiple times and it'll look really cool. So I learned how to do that. And then I ended up like doing it at the dance, and people were like, "Oh my God, he's breakdancing." And I was like, "Oh wow, I guess this is kind of like breakdancing." So I threw a little like swipe/cartwheel thing at the end of it, and suddenly like I was like the people knew as the breakdancer, because no one else was breakdancing out of school. It was just not happening. So that's kind of a little bit how that started. But then I went to 9th grade, which was now in the high school, and I went to the first dance there, and there were actual like breakdancers that went to the school that were there. So I go in the circle thinking, "Oh, I know how to breakdance," and boy, was I completely unprepared, right? Like I was absolutely a joke in comparison to what was going on with these folks, right? So I ended up finding out that they like practice after school in one of the hallways. So I was like, "Oh, okay, well, let me go over there and, maybe I can, become friends and learn some stuff," right? So that's kind of what happened, is that I was never as good as them. Let's just be totally clear on that, is like they were always like levels above me. But I got a couple of like concepts from them, also from just watching music videos at the time, like big MTV stuff, and getting some stuff from there. I remember specifically seeing Jay-Z's videos for Sunshine. And there's a person in there, a dancer, who does tutting in there. And I thought the way that arm movements were was really, really cool as well. So I started like, kind of biting that a little bit and just kind of learning what that was all about. And from there, once you start like feeling comfortable with those kinds of moves, you can kind of like make your own, right? So you have like a foundation, you can grow off of that foundation, right? So that's where I finally started to kind of become a dancer a little bit, so much so that, when I would go out with this breakdancing group to like the club, we would go to the club and actually dance, and it was really to music, like you would imagine dancing being. Because again, the thing is that I started accidentally in my more mature dancing life doing it from fighting games. Like that was just like I wanted to mimic the fighting game move, and it just so happened it was like that. I didn't really take what I was doing, in the kitchen dancing around to the radio as like, the same thing. There was a big, huge hiatus in between all that. Like I remember doing it, but I don't remember any of the moves, nor that I think any of that was maybe even appropriate to do publicly. So that's basically where I started the dancing, but it became professional after that. So from here, I never really considered it as a job at the time. It was just like something fun to do after school. And there was so many things that I was doing after school that were fun for me anyway. But, it was just another thing to do after school if it was, people were hanging out. So my mother, who was in the home party industry, she actually did lingerie home parties, completely ruined my adolescence, probably a separate story entirely. But with that, she would get these like magazines about, the industry, the party industry. And in these magazines, you had lots of different vendors that were in the magazines. And one of these kinds of vendors were DJ companies. And the vendor, I guess in this magazine or whatever, said that they were having auditions for dancers. And my mother was like, oh, this would be a really cool thing for you to do, to be a dancer for a DJ company. So I never really, thought about it. I said, okay, well, sure, let's give it a shot, right? What the hell? So I'm 15 years old at this point, okay? And my father has to drive me to the audition because I can't drive yet. And I go to the audition. I have no idea what to expect. I've never auditioned for anything before. I have no idea what's going to happen. All I'm there, expecting is that, hey, they just want to see me dance, so I'm just going to go ahead and dance. What I think that we ended up doing for the audition is a couple of things. The first thing I think was like a follow along. So follow alongs are very common for the DJ company world. Basically, you'll have some dancers or an MC or whatever that's in front of the DJ booth, and they will do these like very easy but to the beat motions, like clap your hands or roll your fists or do a step to the left, step to the right, and the crowd is meant to follow that stuff. And what you are meant to do is just also follow along. Like, can you just follow along to this stuff? Because that's kind of, critical to the whole job. So that was one of the things that we did, which was, easy. I could, be a monkey and follow along, to the beat. I have rhythm. So that was very easy in that particular way. I don't remember if they taught us a routine or not. I don't think we had enough time to actually learn a routine, but I do remember that we made a big circle, and they would call each one of us out individually to do some kind of freestyle. So that's what I did. I did a freestyle, and then that was it. And they would say, okay, well, if you're in, expect a callback. Otherwise, thanks for showing up. So it was, okay, there you go. So I go home, and a couple weeks pass, and I don't hear anything. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I didn't, make it. And again, it's really no skin off my back. I didn't have any expectations coming in. I had no idea. And then basically we come home from being out one day, and there's a message on the machine. No, sorry, that's not right. I get a letter is what happened. I get a letter in the mail, and the letter basically was the rehearsal schedule for the place that I just auditioned at. I was like, why would I get a rehearsal schedule if they didn't, accept me? Like, I didn't get a phone call. So I call them, and I'm like, hey, got this rehearsal schedule. Does that mean that I'm an employee now? Like, what's happening? He says, oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did you not get the message? I said, no, I didn't. I says, oh, okay. Well, yeah. Rehearsals are every Wednesday night. So I was, oh, okay, cool. So now I have, a rehearsal schedule for, this group, this DJ company. There was a little bit of an onboarding that happened there, but it was actually really interesting because, during the process on our first couple of days, we had a little bit of an onboarding, which was like, okay, this is what you expect to do when you're at a party. There'll be, young kids, there'll be teenagers, there'll be adults, there'll be grandparents, all these kind of people, and how you might interact with those folks. And they also assured all of us that, yeah, for your first couple of parties, you'll have a big group of people with lots of, veterans that are familiar with this stuff that'll help you along, et cetera, et cetera. It'll be a very common like bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah kind of thing, you've seen before. So like all of that is meant to be like your support group, for your first couple of parties. So that was good to hear. And in the rehearsals, we did learn routine. So it was the first time I've ever done dance routines, learning what that was all about. And I was okay with it. I don't think I was like amazing, but I was able to follow. I got the general gist of it. I'm good with patterns, just normally speaking. I mean, I guess you could take that right to the design system world, certainly, but I think that helped out a lot. So moving a little bit along here, my first party that I ended up doing for the DJ company was not what they told me it was going to be. Like I mentioned, there was supposed to be like, 6 dancers, veterans, MC, it's going to be a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah that, basically works all the time. Basically, my first party, there was no DJ. There was only an other dancer that's been working there for a little while already, maybe over a year or so, and me. And that was it, just one person and me. It was at some catering house, not a catering hall, but it was a house that was, and it was a very large house. It was, I'll say it's like mansion-like, but it was not something that a person lived in. It was basically redone so that it would do catering inside of it. And it was just me and this guy. And like I said, it was completely not what I was expecting in terms of what they were preparing me to do. I don't think I even danced at that party. I think I was just playing Connect 4 with the kids. And after a while, I realized that, yes, that is an exception in terms of what happens here. Sometimes what happens is people who have lots and lots of stupid money will purchase, people, we'll call them the dancers or motivators that we used to call ourselves, but purchase folks to show up at their parties just to entertain the kids in whatever way that they need to be entertained. They don't even know that because, they're just like, I don't know how to throw a party. Here, you're the professionals, throw the party. And if they don't provide a DJ or an MC, it's kind of like, well, we don't have anything else to offer other than the board games that we brought. So it's just like, okay, here's the board game. We're not professional child entertainers. We're actually just dancers or motivators at best. So, but eventually I ended up getting to start with a whole bunch of those parties that were more aligned with what you might see at a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah. Did a couple of weddings. It's a little bit less popular because it's usually just DJ and MC for that kind of stuff. So, and that was really cool because I was getting $200 a party at 15 years old, not taxed, right? $200 flat. So that's a lot of money for a 15-year-old to be getting. And you could technically do like 4 parties a weekend tops, because you would do like maybe an afternoon party and then you do an evening party, and you could do it, we would call that a double. Basically, if you do 2 parties in a particular day. I never had an opportunity to do that many. I think the best I did was like 1 on a Saturday and 1 on a Sunday. So, but yeah, that was really cool to be dancing like that. And I, at the time, because I was young, I thought I was just going to like do that forever because the money was great, and it felt so easy to kind of get started, right? Like I didn't know anything. I wasn't auditioning for left, right, and center, trying to find the place to, work. I was just like, oh, I'm just going to do this on a whim and give it a shot. And it worked. Right. And it made me feel like it was easy. I know very deeply now after, being in the industry for a while, how much of an outlier that was, in particular of trying to, be paid for entertainment. And I'm quite frankly glad to be out of the industry overall, just because it is a challenge, right? To be doing that and to be looked over, or for the other person to be more what the producer's looking for, or whatever it is. Like it's really hard. And on top of which, you can't dance forever. That's what my father told me, which is why I got into like a regular desk job with a regular salary eventually. Was that you can't really dance forever, right? Professionally, there's very, very few people who can dance forever and make the living that they want to out of it, right? I think of a person like Dick Van Dyke as an example, right? He's been dancing, he's still alive, and yes, is he, not like as spry as he used to? Absolutely, but like, his legacy has been significant for the longest he's been performing. So yeah, that's how I got started professionally dancing. I did a couple of other things, like some music videos, and let's see what else is kind of important to the whole dancing situation. I will say, so I was on So You Think You Can Dance season 2 and 3 and 7. And it was only for the New York edition. So I didn't actually go to the finals, flying out to Vegas, wherever they throw these people. But I was there for season 2, 3, and 7. And I always got to the second day. And the reason I always got to the second day was because I had a very unique style of dance that I started to do somewhere after high school. And that was with Heelys. So the Heelys are the sneakers with the wheel in the back. And I was very good at dancing in those. Now, this is not like just, doing some hand or arm movements and then like skating forward. I had, twists and turns and other kind of flourishes that were less common for people that are just kind of riding Heelys. So that was really kind of unique, which is exactly what they're looking for on TV. They want unique stuff that you've never seen before to potentially show on the television. The reason why I never really got to anything significant in the show is because I didn't have any good story for the television, right? I'm not coming from like poverty. I'm not, having difficulty in my life. It's all very easy. Just overall, my life is happy and healthy and at the time, like, so there's nothing really for the TV to grab on to like see this person through and look at this person grow, et cetera. There's nothing for that. So that's why they didn't put me on TV, is because it's just, there's nothing there for them as a journey to like watch this person, do better. That's what TV really needs. So, but that was really cool. And then the last thing I guess I'll mention about pure dance is that I've been involved with the New York Dance Parade for a long time. They just had their 18th annual dance parade last weekend, which is always the weekend before Memorial Day. Not the weekend of Memorial Day, the one before. It's always that Saturday. And I've gone to every single dance parade since the beginning. I started volunteering for the dance parade, I think around maybe the 9th or 10th year as their main stage MC, which is basically the person that introduces acts that come onto the stage. And when I was younger, I used to actually dance in between those acts just to like fill up time, and if we had like cancellations and things, which we would have a lot of because it is notoriously rained almost every single year except for 2. So it usually happens where there's, some opportunity for me to show off as well. I since have stopped volunteering about 2 or 3 years ago, just because I'm not as close as I used to be to the city. I'm about maybe an hour away now on a commute rail. Although the executive director, I like I said, I'm always there every year. So the executive director asked me again if maybe I would like to MC the grandstand instead, which I'm considering. So maybe I'll show up for 19. We'll see what happens. So that's everything about like, I guess my world of dancing, I guess more traditional dancing, or I was a hip hop dancer, I guess, so to speak. So I guess I'll pause there.
I'm curious to know, let's go back to the beginning. You started by, mimicking a move from a video game. And then I'm sort of trying not to draw too many parallels between this and design systems, but for you personally, that sort of push and pull between patterns and established moves and working with those, and the need, if there is one, for personal expression. What is the balance for you when it comes to dance?
Interesting. So patterns versus personal expression. So I think when it comes to dance, right, like it's expected for you to dance to a beat, and that beat is a pattern, right? And what you do to that beat should be an expression of, yourself, right? So I think that's the two things, right? Because are there people who dance to their own music that's inside their head and they're not sharing, right? Like that absolutely happens, out there, which is, a little bit difficult. But I think the interesting thing about the beat of the music, especially for folks who have rhythm that could follow along with that beat, that ends up being a shared experience, a shared pattern that we all kind of can experience in that room, in that space, that we can express in our own different way. Like we're all, kind of absorbing that beat, right, in our own way, like absorbing that fourth time. And we'll have different kind of ways of expressing it. Now, the other thing too, I think was maybe a little interesting as well, is that, some people might not know how to express themselves, even if they are on beat, which is that whole act of the motivator, right? That motivator is saying, okay, if you don't know what to do, I'm going to show you an example of what you might want to do. So here, step 2 times to the left, step 2 times to the right, clap it up, clap it down. So like you can follow along and be part of a larger, organization, community, team, group of people, all doing the same thing. And especially if they're all doing the same thing, I think it also lends itself to folks that could be embarrassed, right, about dancing. Because especially if you're doing it by yourself, if you're not like an extrovert, or if you don't find yourself to be a good dancer, you don't believe in yourself or whatever, you will probably not dance as much because you are self-conscious, right? But if you are lost among a crowd of other people doing the same thing, you may be more comfortable doing it because everybody's doing the exact same thing, right? So I think there's a couple of those things in there. Again, like the patterns with the beat, but expressing yourself in your own way based on your experiences is possible too.
Speaking of being a part of a crowd or a community, you started dancing, pre-internet. So there wasn't you can't go on YouTube and you can look at moves or TikTok or whatever people do these days. How did you find yourself getting better and improving in dancing without the ability to easily go and find that?
Yeah, no, that was 100% community. I think going through the whole kind of story that I provided there, I think you could see that there's lots of me kind of reaching out to existing dancers and having an idea of what is appropriate to do at any point in time. Yes, right. Did I watch MTV and music videos to get some, additional stuff outside of that? Absolutely. But there are obviously the people that I danced with after school in the hallway, and then eventually the people that I danced with, the DJ company. And then further from that, when we went to like So You Think You Can Dance, or even just, friends that I found through other avenues, that we would go to the club and we would also just kind of riff off each other and see like, ooh, okay, that was cool. Let me try something like that, but do something, differently, like my style, so that was really good too.
At what point did you say, okay, now is the time to sort of, hang up my dancing shoes and go to the, like you said, the desk job?
So the desk job the desk job was actually early for me. The desk job ended up happening at about 22, but I was still dancing. So yeah, desk job is basically at 22. I worked for UPS up until I worked there for like 9 years. So it was like till I was, I guess, what was that? What's the math on that? No, that can't be right. Okay, I don't know the math here. I don't know how the math's working. I remember working for UPS for 9.5 years. So that was the desk job. That was the real job that I was taking. But that job allowed me to also do other stuff. In fact, because I was working the twilight, which was 4 to 12, I could do the possibility of like a music video or something like that during the day, right? That was very easy to go ahead and do. Or if it was a weekend kind of gig, I can take that weekend gig because I was working, Monday to Friday. It's also totally reasonable. So I think basically what happened was I just kind of, when I was working for the DJ company, I was working in Long Island. Eventually, I moved out of Long Island to the city, to New York City, Queens in particular. And in order to do that, I got rid of my car. Doing that makes it like practically impossible for me to be doing these DJ gigs because I can't get anywhere, right? Unless it's in the city. So I ended up kind of like sunsetting the DJ job in favor of kind of exploring the city. That was basically what I was doing. And in fact, when I was exploring the city, I found the Central Park Dance Skater Association. And this is a group that basically from late April to Halloween every year, we make a circle by the summer stage. It's about a couple blocks west out of the summer stage. And there's a DJ that ends up over there. There's a whole bunch of skating that happens over there. And because I dance in Heelys, I also hang out over there as well for, years, just dancing on the weekends there instead. That would happen there. But over time, as I got older, it was a lot more of a hassle to get all the way out there to dance. So eventually it was just me going to clubs with my friends instead, on a regular, when that would happen. But I think it's just a matter of me kind of phasing it out. And then eventually I had to move back to Long Island after I lost my job at UPS. And when I moved back, it was a lot less focus on dance, absolutely, because I didn't really know anybody in Long Island anymore. All the people I went to high school with have, either moved away or they have families or jobs or just other lives that I weren't really a part of. And all my actual people that I kind of grew up with were all in the city. So completely like separate kind of lives there. So I kind of just decided to focus on other stuff. I don't remember exactly what I would have focused on those weekends, honestly. I probably did a whole bunch of traveling to the city to see my friends. In fact, it was probably, now coming to think of it, it's probably playing a lot of DDR. So the folks who don't know that acronym, DDR is Dance Dance Revolution. It's a video game that is about dancing. And some people who know me confuse the fact that because I play DDR, you're not a real dancer. Well, it's not true because I was an actual real dancer before I ever considered playing DDR. So it was not like, it's not a chicken or the egg situation. Like I was actually a professional dancer before playing DDR. That was real stuff. So it's probably what I ended up doing, actually. I probably filled that hole playing DDR. And I was very involved in that community in particular for a long time and did a lot of traveling, won competitions in that. I was featured in a international magazine, did an interview with me with a photographer and all of this stuff. So it was a big time for me in my, I guess, mid to late 20s playing that game, which was huge. It was huge. So yeah, I think that's what the transition kind of was, is like I kind of stopped with the traditional dancing kind of thing, which kind of expected you to like perform for someone to make money to do that thing. And I think the transition to DDR was really great because now I'm kind of doing it certainly for exercise. It's like a big thing for DDR, of course, but I'm also, I guess, involved with the community because that's where like the internet was coming around. So the internet's coming around. There's like forums for DDR, and obviously people who play video games are like one of the first people jumping on top of the internet community kind of environment. So that was a big flourishing community that I was a part of, again, internationally. And I got myself really involved in that instead. I think it's probably where the traditional dancing fell off.
Where does dancing feature in your life these days?
I think really it comes to probably just two things, which is first off, it's Dance Parade. And I love Dance Parade. It's a really great place to be with lots of different cultures and backgrounds and ethnicities and just the biggest diverse melting pot you could possibly see when it comes to New York, right? And I really love that with all the music that goes on there too. And of course, being a dancer, that makes me feel some kind of way, of course. So that Dance Parade is definitely something that I will always visit if I'm not only a part of for, the foreseeable future of it. But then the other part, of course, I think I'll say is DDR. I'm not in the community like I was at all. That community has changed quite significantly since I've kind of faded into the sunset with it. But I do still play, mostly for the exercise purposes of it. I'm, again, getting older. I'm 41 years old now. And, it's my number one source of, exercise is playing DDR, because the thing with regular exercise for me is it's very, very boring, right? To be just running around the block or running on a treadmill or lifting weights, in place. It's all very boring. For DDR, there's a lot of stimulation that's happening when you play that game, because you have to listen to the music, you have to read the arrows, those arrows have to be stepped at a particular pattern that you need to match with the beat of the music on, the stage. So there's a lot more involved, and it keeps, I think, your brain sharp as well as your body, right? So you're doing both of those things simultaneously, and it's, like I said, just a really good workout for the whole of yourself, right?
Donnie, where can people find you?
They'll find me on the internet like you find everybody else. I'm easily found at donnie.d'amato.design. In fact, actually, if you just search Donnie D'Amato on the internet, I am the first 3 pages of Google once you get past the AI results. Although I'm sure the AI results probably say something about me too. So that's where you could find me. I'm Twitter, Donnie D'Amato as well. Anything else that is up into grabs? I'll plug my own podcast while I'm here, I guess. It's wireframe.fm. I produce an episode every week for the most part right now. That might change in a near future. I have some ideas about what that might look like. But all in all, thanks for having me over here. I was really fun talking about something that I haven't really talked about in a really long time. So this was great. Thank you, Guy.
This is all for this episode of Design Downtime. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, I hope you enjoy your downtime.